Good afternoon. The city remains under a heat warning as the first heat wave of the summer rolls in.
Temperatures are expected to top 30 degrees for several days in a row, prompting warnings about potential impacts on vulnerable residents. CTV's Beth Macdonell has been speaking with people about how they're planning to beat the heat and joins us live with more. Beth.
Yeah, down here at the beach, people are well aware there's going to be a lot of heat over the next few days, and many are already taking precautions. This weather can bring on heat stroke and heat illness, so it's critical that people watch their time outside and drink plenty of water. The temperature already right now is close to 30 degrees, and this afternoon it's expected to feel more into the 40s. Lots of people here, though, are out enjoying this warm weather. It's not stopping them from running, playing beach volleyball, or going for a walk or a swim. Some out are being cautious, though. They are even a little worried about how their bodies react to this heat.
Oh yeah, I'm going out early, I'm going slower, getting water, and I'm not going as far.
Should have gotten up much earlier, and you just got to stay hydrated, right? Yeah. You know, and if you don't, you're in trouble. But yeah, it's going to get especially hot the next couple days.
I wanted to get a run in, so I'm going early, and then I got to stop at every water fountain along the way.
Just to stay hydrated.
Just to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
We're down for a couple of hours, hoping to have a swim and enjoy the beautiful weather we're currently experiencing. The heat waves all over the place, and this week's particularly hot. It's going to be packed here tomorrow, so we just wanted to beat the crowds.
Now, big crowds are expected to be out tomorrow for Canada Day and on Thursday when Portugal plays Croatia at Toronto Stadium. And while out in the heat, the city wants people to be aware that those going to FIFA Fan Fest can access misting stations and a shaded cooling area near Fort York, as well as free drinking water trailers, which will be available at Nathan Phillips Square, the Fan Festival site at Fort York, and the Bentway. And out of abundance of caution, the city says that medical and first aid staff will also be on site in coordination with paramedics to respond to heat-related illnesses. Then on match day, there's going to be extra water trailers available in Liberty Village, at Inukshuk Park, and the Fort York Library. And so the other thing that the city wants to know is not everyone is going to be out and about at these crowds, that there will be many people at home, especially the vulnerable and especially those who don't have air conditioning. The city is asking people to check on their neighbors. Reporting live on Beth Macdonell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth.
Meanwhile, the city is extending hours at several pools until 11:45 at night during the heat wave. 8 pools are staying open late, including Alex Duff Memorial Pool at Christie Pitts Park, Sunnyside Gus Ryder Outdoor Pool, North Toronto Memorial Community Centre, McGregor Park Community Centre, and Monarch Park. There will also be extended hours at cooling centres across the city.
All that will certainly be helpful because the heat has most definitely moved in. As we take a live look at Nathan Phillips Square this hour, lots of people out there enjoying it, but you can feel the difference. Even from this morning, it was a little bit fresher, and now we're feeling that humidity. We are under this orange warning for heat. Lindsay Morrison is here to explain what that's all about and what we can expect, because we have yet to reach our high today, Lindsay.
We still have several hours of daytime heating to go, Michelle, and the fact that it's already feeling as hot and humid as it is should be an indication of what's to come. Early this morning, did you hear the thunder? We had thunder, lightning, and heavy downpours. Toronto, north and east. It's still quite active over toward Kingston and Ottawa at this hour, but much drier in our neck of the woods for now. It's a day that we need to be weather aware. It's not a sure thing, but the risk of thunderstorms is going to be there throughout the day as well. There's that orange level heat warning that's in place. You can see just how widespread it is across southwest Ontario too. 28 degrees, feels like 36 at this hour, and already it feels like 41 in places like London. Hamilton's feeling like 42 this hour in Windsor. Winds are out of the south, but you're not going to find a whole lot of relief from them, save for very much the lakeside communities. Downtown Toronto, for example, you might get a little bit of relief there. We're at a 9 on the UV index for today, so slather on the sunscreen, do what you have to do to protect yourself. 33 degrees is our forecast daytime high for today, and that is going to feel like 43. Coming up, we'll give you an idea of just how hot it is going to remain into the night tonight. And how long is this heat wave going to last? We'll show you coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Peel police are searching for suspects following a violent home invasion in Brampton.
One person has been taken to hospital with serious injuries as a result. CTV's John Musselman has been following the investigation. He joins us live now with more. Sounds frightening, John.
Well, yes, Michelle. Neighbors here are reacting to what's happened here. It's rather unsettling and disturbing. Peel police are on the scene investigating what happened. Here's what we do know. It happened in the home behind me here. We're on Estate View Circle. Now, what Peel police say is that two suspects entered the home, forced their way in through a side door. There was some kind of confrontation with the people who live in the home, and one person was injured. But police say it was not from a gunshot, but it was an injury to the leg or foot. But they do confirm that gunshots were fired within the home. Now, at this point, Peel police believe this may have been a targeted attack. They don't know, or they don't believe there's any other threat to the public here. We did have a chance to speak to police and some neighbors. Here's what they had to tell us just a short time ago.
The family is pretty traumatized from this incident, and we're just taking it slow just to navigate and all to just determine what actually led to this incident.
Are they cooperating with police?
At this point, we're just trying to provide them resources, and slowly as we gather more information, we will be canvassing the area. And as I said, our officers are diligently working behind the scenes just to gather as much footage as they can, speak to the neighbors, to gather some sort of incident, to determine what happened at that time.
It's crazy. That's been going on like this since they blocked Go-Away Drive, and vehicles started to drive through the area. We have a lot of break-in, because this house was broken into twice also. So that's what's been going on. So people know what's here. Before it was private, right? Quiet. It's not again.
Especially last, I can say 1 year, is so many houses have been shooting. One on Ray Avenue, number 1 and 6, and one over Go-Away Drive. They went inside last year. They beat one person, was in the hospital. The shootings every day in Brampton.
Now, this is a neighborhood of large luxury homes. What we don't know yet is why this home in particular was targeted, or what the motive may have been. Police are canvassing this neighborhood for any security video in hopes of identifying, at least at this point, two suspects. Reporting live in Brampton, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. An investigation is underway after a construction worker was hit by a vehicle in Stouffville. This happened just before 3:15 a.m. on Stouffville Road between Warden and Kennedy. The victim was taken to a trauma center with serious injuries. The circumstances leading up to the worker being struck are still not clear.
Still to come, a significant deadline for the future of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement arrives tomorrow. We'll have more on where the trade talks stand a little later in the newscast. With new school attendance rules set to take effect later this year, Ontario's education minister is urging parents not to pull their kids from class to attend sports tournaments. Starting in September, attendance and participation will count for between 10 and 15% of a student's grade. If they have more than 2 unexcused absences, they will not be able to get full marks. The absences are usually for illnesses or religious occasions, but some students are excused on Fridays if they have a weekend sports tournament. Education Minister Paul Kelleher is discouraging the practice, saying school should be the priority. He did say he's prepared to make accommodations for certain high-level athletes. Canada now knows who it's going to be facing in the World Cup's round of 16.
The squad will be going head-to-head with Morocco after the African nation beat the Netherlands last night.
Saibari, up against Verbruggen. It's Saibari!
Morocco with the win on penalties after tying the game in stoppage to force extra time. Canada and Morocco will now square off in Houston July 4th. The teams played each other at the last World Cup in Qatar in 2022, with Morocco beating Canada 2-1.
Meanwhile, Toronto's set to host its final match on Thursday when Portugal and Croatia face off in the knockout round. Tickets are a hot commodity, as the match could be the final World Cup appearance for Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo. Price tracking site Ticket Data shows the cheapest resale tickets are going for nearly $3,000. Meanwhile, Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkew was asked about the rolling road closures during the World Cup.
We are an international city. We have an obligation to move these players safely from place to place in a timely way in a city that we know, like any major city, has issues around congestion. We are required to do it safely. And can you only imagine the news if they were stuck on the Don Valley Parkway or the Gardner?
Well, we've had that, though.
Well,
we've had athletes and musicians who've gotten
and we saw what happened. And, you know, it's very difficult, and we try to avoid those circumstances, and certainly as it relates to FIFA.
And Canada's first ever World Cup knockout round victory set a record for viewers. Sunday's 1-0 win over South Africa drew an average audience of 5.2 million viewers. Bell Media says nearly 12 million unique viewers tuned in during the game. It was the most watched knockout round match other than the World Cup finals in Canadian history. CTV is a division of Bell Media.
Canada Day is tomorrow, and there will be some changes to what's open and closed. Most attractions will be open, including museums, the Toronto Zoo, Canada's Wonderland, Casa Loma, the CN Tower, and Ripley's Aquarium. Some malls will also be open, including the Eaton Centre, Square One, and Vaughan Mills. Meanwhile, banks and government offices will also be closed, and there will be no mail delivery. Libraries and LCBO locations will also be closed. The TTC will run on a holiday schedule, while GO Transit will be on a Saturday schedule.
There will be several fireworks displays for Canada Day tomorrow. People will be able to take in light shows at Ashbridges Bay, Downsview Park, Stan Wadlow Park, Mel Lastman Square, Brampton's Chinguacousy Park, as well as Canada's Wonderland.
And the Royal Ontario Museum is offering free admission on Canada Day. The timed entry tickets must be reserved online ahead of time. They include access to all permanent galleries. Meanwhile, kids between 4 and 17 can use the Canada Strong Pass again this year and get into the ROM free through the summer. Visitors between 18 and 24 get 50% off admission with the pass. The museum will be offering workshops and interactive exhibits through the fall.
Anyone planning on hitting the road on Canada Day may want to fill up their gas tank today ahead of an expected price jump. Dan McTagg, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, is predicting the price of gas in the GTA and most of southern and central Ontario will increase by 5 cents a litre at midnight. That would bring the price to just under $1.65 a litre. Meanwhile, diesel is also due to increase by 6 cents to just under $1.86.
A new poll ahead of Canada Day finds most Canadians are proud of the country, but are experiencing anxiety about the direction it's heading. The poll conducted by Liaison Strategies found 80% of respondents are very or somewhat proud to be Canadian. When asked about the direction the country is heading, 44% of respondents described themselves as proud, but worried, while 30% said they are optimistic. 72% of Liberals say they're proud of the country, compared to 44% of Conservatives and 44% of New Democrats. The random phone survey of more than 1,500 people is considered accurate within 2.5 percentage points, 19 times out of 20.
Tomorrow marks a key deadline for the future of the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Agreement, or CUSMA. The agreement says each country has until July 1st to indicate support to renew the pact. Both Canada and Mexico say they want a 16-year extension, while U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested he would rather terminate the deal. If the July 1st deadline comes and goes without U.S. support for renewal, CUSMA will continue with an annual review for up to 10 years. If a country wants to pull out of the deal, it must give 6 months' notice. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver joins us live now from Ottawa with more on the situation. Here we are, Annie, the last day of June. July 1st is tomorrow. Where does Canada stand at this stage when it comes to these trade talks with the U.S.? Is it looking good or not so good?
Well, it's interesting because the Prime Minister was just asked about this. He's up in northern Quebec today. He said he doesn't expect to see any drama tomorrow. He does expect constructive conversations in this virtual meeting with all three partners. But he also told reporters that he's not looking for his pen and he's not going to reach for it either. So that is sort of an indication that the Prime Minister and Canada is not expecting to be signing any type of new deal tomorrow. Both Canada and Mexico have said they do want to renew CUSMA for 16 9 years. The U.S. president, as you mentioned in your opening remarks, has not said that. In fact, he said, that he believes this should be terminated, but then he's also said he's open to continuing talks and continuing to work with Canada. But based on what the Prime Minister said this morning, that he's not looking for and will not be searching for a pen, it doesn't seem like a deal is going to happen tomorrow. It seems that this is just going to be further conversations with Canada's partners in Mexico and the Americans to talk about the future of this deal. And it's likely, as most experts have been saying for quite some time now, that this deal is going to start rolling into an annual review process, which means that the sides will all be meeting at least on an annual basis to review it, to negotiate, with the ultimate goal of coming up with a new agreement before the current CUSMA expires in 2036, Michelle.
Annie, as you very well know, Ottawa has been shifting its focus, meantime, to diversifying trade partners, as well as this continued push for the Buy Canadian policy. And it's understandable why Canada is doing that because of the U.S.'s stance. But could this impact negotiations with the U.S.?
Well, the Americans have already highlighted Canada's Buy Canadian policy as a trade irritant. They say that the policies in place that prioritize Canadian companies and Canadian goods and services is really doing a disservice to American companies. It's making it harder for American companies to bid on and to win big government contracts, whether that's at the federal level or at the provincial level. And so the Americans have highlighted this as something that they don't like and they want to see changed. So you can bet that this is a topic of discussion that's coming up when the Canadians are meeting with their American counterparts. So far, the two sides haven't had any formal negotiations, but they have had informal negotiations, and it's likely that's coming up. The other big one that the Americans have highlighted is the fact that many provinces, including right here in Ontario, have a current ban on any type of liquor, wine, beer, spirit sales from the United States. This is really hurting American companies, especially distilleries in Kentucky who are making bourbon. It's hurting their bottom line. It's hurting American exports. And the U.S. president has said he wants that changed. The other big one here that you can bet is coming up in these discussions is supply management. The Americans want greater access for dairy, for poultry, and for eggs into the Canadian market. But the Prime Minister has said that supply management is not on the table, that he does not want to open that can of worms, that is not up for discussion. But we know that's a big trade irritant from the Americans because they feel like they're not getting enough access to the Canadian market, tariff-free access, and they want that change. So those are definitely three areas that for sure are coming up anytime the two sides are meeting. How big an impact that's going to have, who knows? But of course, what we know from Canada is they want these tariffs removed on steel and aluminum. That's a big priority for them in any type of negotiation when it comes to CUSMA with the Americans, Michelle.
Well, let's hope they can figure all this out. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver live for us in Ottawa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Canada's real GDP grew slightly from March to April, increasing by 0.5%, according to Stats Canada. The gains were boosted by the strength of the goods and services sectors. The results represent an improvement from March, where data showed an economy in decline. April's performance was driven by increased activity in several key industries, most notably mining, oil and gas extraction, construction, and manufacturing. A Chinese dissident is rebuilding his life in Canada after spending years in prison for challenging China's government over the Tiananmen Square crackdown.
CTV's Judy Trin recently caught up with him following his daring escape at sea.
Deng Guangping's friends have been making sure he eats well. The Chinese human rights activist and political prisoner is finally on Canadian soil after trying to escape from China for more than a decade.
This is so amazing, and especially he never gave up.
Last Friday, Dong's friends welcomed him at Toronto's Pearson Airport. A month earlier, Dong had fled from northern China in an inflatable boat with a self-propelled motor and a cell phone.
I know if the battery dead, I'm going to be die.
He spent 40 hours at sea before being rescued by fishermen from South Korea.
The Chinese communist regime, they can kill me, but they cannot kill my dream. And my dream is I have to live in wherever is that allow me to think freely.
The former soldier and police officer was imprisoned after criticizing China's 1989 massacre of student protesters in Tiananmen Square. He has been jailed and on house arrest. In 2015, he was put in isolation for 5 months. The guards never took off his handcuffs.
I was kept in a room, no window, no light, no clock.
In 2022, his daughter, who was granted asylum in Canada, petitioned the Chinese government to free her father. During a previous attempt at escape, while hiding in Vietnam, Dong was arrested and turned over to Chinese authorities. But this time, officials in South Korea notified the Canadian embassy, and immigration authorities sent him a ticket to Toronto. Dong Guangping says he'll continue speaking out against China's human rights abuses. At 68 years old, he wants to find work as a commercial truck driver, but he'll settle for driving an Uber. Judy Trin, CTV News, Toronto.
The Canadian government will match up to $4 million in public donations for the people of Venezuela following those catastrophic earthquakes. Ottawa will match up to $2 million in donations made to the Canadian Red Cross until July 14th, and the same amount for donations to the Humanitarian Coalition, made up of a dozen aid groups. The government says this move will help Canadian organizations with grassroots connections provide essentials such as food, shelter, medicine, and clothing. At least 1,750 people have died and thousands have been injured as a result of last Wednesday's back-to-back quakes. About 16,000 people have been left homeless, and an estimated 59,000 buildings have been damaged or destroyed.
The Prime Minister is heading overseas again. Mark Carney will attend the NATO summit in Turkey next Tuesday and Wednesday. Alliance members have increased their defense spending, but NATO remains under pressure to present a credible plan to meet the latest spending benchmark of 5% of GDP by 2035. Carney's been campaigning for allies to support the establishment of a multinational bank to finance defense sector growth. Following the summit, officials say the PM will travel to Saudi Arabia to talk trade and investment. It will be the first time, or the first visit to the kingdom by a Canadian Prime Minister in 26 years, and the first to Turkey in more than a decade.
In the Middle East, U.S. envoys have arrived in Qatar, but there will not be a high-level meeting with their Iranian counterparts. That development casts more doubt on efforts to fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz and bring a lasting halt to the war. Instead of high-level negotiations, there will be technical talks this week on issues including regional security that could later be elevated to the senior level. Exchanges of fire over the weekend tested the interim accord between the U.S. and Iran. The 14-point pact allows 60 days for the two sides to negotiate a permanent truce.
The Canadarm2 is undergoing some repair work right now, about 400 kilometers above the Earth.
All right, I see you've got your tether in a good config. I see it not tangled with anything. And I see your VRT is good. You look like you're in a good config.
Two NASA astronauts began fixing a joint on the Canadian-made robotic arm just after 8 o'clock this morning. The 90-kilogram wrist joint malfunctioned during normal operations in May. The Canadarm2 arrived at the International Space Station in 2001 and is nearly as old as the orbiting lab itself.
In Italy, Mount Etna is lighting up the Sicilian sky. Lava gushed from an eruptive vent at an altitude of around 3,000 meters last night. Etna is Europe's largest volcano, and Italy's Civil Protection Department says its activity is typically characterized by episodic eruptions, lava flows, and ash emissions. The volcano is located on Sicily's east coast. Lindsay.
Well, the heat is on. The heat wave is now underway. And once again, we are looking at several, maybe 5 or 6 consecutive days where our temperature, our daytime high, is above 30. But that's not the only part of the weather story. There's also the humidex values, which even today are going to be making it feel into the low or mid 40s, depending on where you're joining us from. And of course, there's those overnight lows when they remain in the mid 20s. That does not allow the body to cool down and regulate at night. So these are some of the heat stress symptoms that you should be aware of over the next couple of days, because this type of prolonged heat spell can be quite dangerous. Tomorrow is Canada Day. Make sure you take care if you're heading to any outdoor festivities, not just because of the heat and humidity, but also because of the risk of thunderstorms. We're going to talk about this and give you an idea of what conditions are looking like by the time fireworks roll around. That's after the break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
All right, talking about the forecast, I think everybody's talking about the weather today. And yes, it's summer, it's supposed to be hot, but I can't remember a time where I'm seeing mid-30s for like 5-6 days in a row.
It feels like it's been a while. You would know exactly. Yes. But I mean, this is the very last day of the month of June. Where did June go? And now it's suddenly July, and wow, the heat, it's like turn the heat right up.
Is it just me? January never goes as fast as June, does it?
Never.
Well, here we are. We have to enjoy what's left of summer, and there is still plenty of summer to go. It certainly feels like the season out there. It's going to be scorching the next few days here. These are the hottest temperatures of the season so far, and yes, it is a long duration heat wave, which is partly what makes it dangerous. So you do have to take care over the next few days. Let's tell you everything you need to know. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Now, depending on which corner of the GTA you're joining us from, you may have had a stormy start to your day today. Look at that, lightning bolts in Oshawa this morning. Heavy downpours around Bowmanville. I know it was very active in the Whitby, Ajax, Pickering, Markham, Stouffville areas too. And yeah, that was the start of the day. We've got a risk of thunderstorms again today. This is a live look from the camera at Hotel X. That, of course, is Toronto Stadium. It's still a couple of days away, that big game on Thursday, but we are so excited. If you're lucky enough to have a ticket, start thinking ahead now of ways you're going to keep yourself cool. You have to stay hydrated. You have to protect yourself from the sun's rays. And yeah, you have to make sure you're taking cool breaks in a cool space, because that's the key to making it through the next few days here. And if you don't have access to air conditioning, if you're joining us from perhaps a hot space right now, a reminder, you can go to a mall, a library for a bit of a break. If you know somebody who doesn't have access to AC or just simply maybe a little more susceptible or vulnerable in these kinds of conditions, a reminder to check in on them. There's a look at the heat warning that remains in place. There are severe thunderstorm watches and warnings in eastern parts of Ontario. It's now 30 degrees at Pearson Airport. It feels like 40. And again, we're going to see the temperature and the humidex values go up as this afternoon progresses. Record to beat today is 35.4 degrees. 2018 brought us quite a stretch of hot weather similar to this. Already Hamilton, the provincial hotspot, at 32.4. Seasonal norm for a daytime high is 26 degrees. We're looking at an overnight low tonight of 24, so that's not very cool. Again, it's not going to allow our bodies to reset. Very uncomfortable for sleeping. And then tomorrow we're going to do it all over again, but it's likely going to be even hotter. We're climbing by a degree or two pretty much every day here, so highs of around 34 this time around as we make our way through Canada Day Wednesday. There is a risk of thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon and early evening. Should be drier and clearer by the time we reach fireworks at around 10 p.m. But again, a reminder that we might encounter some active weather before then. Now, here's the current satellite and radar. We back-timed it a little bit to show you those storms that made their way through the east end of the GTA. As far as active weather is concerned, it's a decently quiet weather pattern until it isn't. With this type of hot, humid air mass, there's the potential for storms bubbling up without a whole lot of notice. All the instability is there. We simply need a bit of a trigger. So there's noon tomorrow. There's around 3 p.m. And then around 8:30, there's a chance of storms to the east of the GTA. This is going to change a little bit, so keep an eye on the sky. You simply have to be weather aware the next few days here when it comes to thunderstorms. What we know for sure is that the heat is on right through the weekend. Less in the way of humidity over the weekend, especially Sunday and then into Monday. And perhaps we climb out of the 30s for a high on Monday. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. To sports, Bo Bichette made an emotional return as the Jays took on the New York Mets last night.
This is hooked to left field, and it's going to get down for a base hit and past Soto to the wall. Springer around second, and now the ball is dropped. And Springer is coming around to score.
There goes Springer scoring in the first inning. Thanks to some fielding mistakes by the Mets outfield, the Jays would end up with a long-awaited win, 2-1. Bichette went 0-4. Kevin Gausman is set to start for Toronto tonight. First pitch, 7:07 at Rogers Centre.
NHL free agency begins tomorrow. Players on expiring deals will become unrestricted free agents, giving them the ability to sign with any team. The Maple Leafs have already signed defenseman Darren Radish, as well as selecting forward Gavin McKenna with the first overall pick in the NHL draft. Former Leafs GM Gord Stellick, who currently co-hosts NHL Morning Skate on Sirius XM, offered his thoughts on what Toronto might be looking for.
Brian Burke's the one that said it about basically general managers make their most mistakes at the trade deadline, which is something we look back at the Brad Treliving area, but also make a lot of mistakes on July 1st as well. Now, to Treliving's credit, you know, a guy like Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Chris Tanev 2 years ago were good kind of signings. And that's the kind of thing. It's not the sexy one. It's the kind of one that 6 months down the road, we say, wow, that John Smith came over. He's not a bad fit. But right now, the two big splashes have been getting the first overall pick in McKenna and getting the top defenseman that was available as a free agent in Darren Radish.
The Leafs currently have 7 pending free agents, 4 unrestricted and 3 restricted. A London man has made it his mission to make sure everyone is able to play the coolest game on earth.
He's launched a foundation to give new Canadians and those in low-income housing access to hockey. CTV's Brent Lale reports.
We're just breaking barriers. We're providing kids the opportunity to play hockey. Go, boys and girls, let's go!
Savneth and his foundation are providing new Canadians and those in low-income housing the opportunity to get on the ice.
Equipment, jersey, ice time, to see them love the game, to be a part of something, be a part of a team.
We're gonna go around.
He had more than a dozen young volunteers helping these kids learn skills over the course of 6 sessions.
It's really fun. I love it.
With his parents cheering him on, 11-year-old Nico was improving every session.
Shooting, maybe like passing a little bit, and skating.
It's such a big opportunity.
New to Canada just 5 years ago, Sahanzi Kandri was thankful for this opportunity. Living in London Middlesex housing, she never imagined her son could play.
And this is the biggest fear of my family, that I have 3 boys, and we're just afraid to find out one of our boys interested in hockey, which is actually one of the most expensive game here in Canada. We got the ads in our board that mentioned that about the free hockey, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's amazing.
The players were a range of kids from all walks of life, just like Savneth.
I was a kid that lived in London housing. I played hockey with baseboards. We used shopping carts as nets. To dream to be on the ice, to play hockey is something I hope and inspire these kids to make that much of a difference.
And they all improved.
From the first day, they couldn't get off the ice. Snowman, and now they're skating across. You see parents cheering. Remarkable.
It's amazing for this opportunity, and he was so happy, and he just now very exciting what's going to be happen.
Brent Lale, CTV News.
Still to come, health experts are urging people to watch out for ticks this summer. We'll have more on how people can stay safe when we return.
There's an ongoing discussion about the future of supervised consumption sites across the country.
Ontario and Alberta are moving to shut down sites as a new study reveals what Canadians think about the facilities. CTV's Kathy Lay reports.
This encampment outside of the supervised consumption site in Lethbridge, Alberta, is a visible symbol of the city's addiction crisis.
Everybody in this place is filled with pain, trauma.
It also used to be home for Travis Petty. He says the drugs numbed his pain.
When you're in addiction, really that is your survival.
What helped him survive during his darkest days were supervised consumption sites in Lethbridge and Calgary.
Last November, it took 17 Narcans in the safe consumption site to bring me back.
Life-saving for him, but the sites have also been deeply divisive, with critics saying they fueled social disorder and crime. Both will close on June 30th, part of a broader shift that has also seen several sites in Ontario shut their doors. Supporters of the sites say closing them will simply push drug use out into the open, leading to more public overdoses and deaths, and putting even greater pressure on a system that is already stretched thin.
It's going to put more pressure on the hospitals, on the shelters, on the public.
The closures come as a new national study in the International Journal of Drug Policy suggests Canadians generally perceived supervised consumption sites as beneficial for clients.
It thought that not only did these sites provide access to supports and healthcare resources, but they felt more neutral towards the crime situations.
Alberta's Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction says opioid-related deaths are declining, and the province is shifting its focus to 24/7 recovery response teams and other supports. Petty says the sites need to stay. He and his lawyer have sought an injunction to keep the Calgary and Lethbridge locations open.
We didn't get the injunction, sadly, but we are in the Court of Appeals.
As they await a court date, Petty says he'll keep fighting for the people still living the life he once did. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Lethbridge, Alberta. Canada has approved its first generic version of the weight loss drug Wegovy. Health Canada has authorized Femia, a once-a-week semaglutide injection made by Canadian pharmaceutical company Apotex. It's prescribed for chronic weight management in people aged 12 and older as a supplement to a reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity. It's the first drug of its kind to be approved by Health Canada, which is currently reviewing 6 other submissions.
With summer in full swing, health experts are urging people to protect themselves from ticks.
It's just something to be aware of, right? Listen, when you're out in wooded areas or areas with tall grass, this is sort of tick transmitted, or areas where ticks like to live. You know, it's a good idea to put on some insect repellent. Obviously, if it's not too hot, we can wear long pants and a long sleeve shirt, but you know, if it's 30 degrees outside, that's not really practical. And then of course, do a tick check when you come in. And sometimes it's helpful to have someone look at the back of the legs or areas where we might not be able to see, and then remove the ticks right away. If anyone has any symptoms whatsoever, of course, go talk to a healthcare provider and say you had a tick bite and you're worried about a tick transmitted illness.
There are more than 40 different types of ticks in Canada, and climate change is being blamed for their continued expansion in the country. Canada's Public Health Agency says more than 7,000 cases of Lyme disease were logged last year, which was the highest number on record.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, new auto insurance laws will take effect in Ontario tomorrow. We'll have a preview when we return.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The Royal Botanical Gardens in Burlington has opened a new contemporary art exhibit, which features 18 large-scale works. And CTV Jessica Smith joins us now from the gardens with a look at this. Hey, Jessica.
Hey, Nathan. It is hot outside, but it's the perfect day to be here at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Burlington. You've got a nice breeze, beautiful flowers, and beautiful art behind me. I'm going to start with you, Jeremy. I have Jeremy and John here with the Royal Botanical Gardens, but I want to ask you about the partnership with the artist that created this, because you've got real beautiful flowers, but you've also got this interpretation of flowers.
Yeah, so working with Ken Kelleher was the artist name of Anchor Ball. We've been working with Ken for about a year, getting this all together, selecting the works, getting them fabricated, figuring out which one's going to land where, how big can they be. So it's been an awesome collaboration, and he's shown all over the world, so we're really lucky that he's got a really great network of fabricators and folks like that that can help make shows happen really quick.
And I want to ask you as well, because there are, I believe, 18 of them, and they are massive, but there's also a VR kind of digital component. Why bring this here? I mean, obviously the garden is beautiful all by itself. There's lots to see inside and outside, but why bring this here? Why did this make perfect sense for you guys?
For sure. It's like, and John will tell you, like, we go through these like bloom bust sort of portions of our season. So we wanted to bring something in that was going to make sure there was always something stunning in the garden, sort of in between John's blooming seasons. And we've always done cultural things. We've got concerts, we've got after dark parties, those sort of things. We wanted something really special this summer to anchor that whole season in.
Literally, because it's called anchor ball. Speaking of blooming and the seasons, John, I have to ask you, this is such a really cool pairing between the actual beautiful flowers, and I learned that you've got the ornamental onions. I learned something today about the different type of plants, but how does this kind of pair with what you've got going on here? Because it is breathtaking.
Yeah, it's amazing to have these sculptures within the gardens of Henry Park here because, you know, it's ever changing. The gardens are always evolving through the season. The lighting even changes through the day. So it really helps with the sculptures, but also, you know, makes the beautiful gardens glow as well. So, you know, our rose garden is kind of our feature garden in this location. Right now, we're peak bloom. And, you know, this garden features roses that bloom starting in May and go right till October with various fluctuations through those seasons. But this garden is paired with stunning companion plants like those ornamental onions. And that really extends the season of interest of this garden, as well as does some good things for the roses.
Listen, between art and the flowers, it is absolutely stunning. If people want to find out more information about coming to see Anchor Ball, coming to see John's beautiful blooms here, how do they do that?
rbg.ca is the website, or at rbg Canada on social media and whatnot, so that's where all your info will be.
You know what? I feel like this is a perfect place to bloom. I learned something new today. Ornamental onions, friends. They are fantastic. Here, Francis, I'll show you what they look like in case you want to be an expert. It's them right here. All right, I'll send things back inside to the studio. I'm going to hang out with the art and the ornamental onions.
You are so lucky. I grew up going to the RBG. Love it there. Just gorgeous. Thank you. Well, there are new auto insurance laws that take effect here in Ontario tomorrow. 9 types of accident benefits that had previously been automatic in every Ontario policy will now be optional. They include income replacement, caregiver benefits, death and funeral benefits, lost educational expenses, and damage to personal items. The changes could save a driver up to $100 yearly in premiums. However, some experts are warning about added risks, including more legal disputes after crashes, particularly if drivers opt out of benefits without fully understanding the financial consequences.
For the first time, the Prime Minister has conceded that Canada will not meet its greenhouse gas emissions target.
We can't afford to restrain the growth of an important part of our energy mix, oil and gas, to meet a short-term goal. I want to be clear on this point. The changes we have made will mean that our emissions will be higher in the next few years than they were projected to be under the previous government's plan. But in my judgment, that plan was not sustainable over the long term. It would have been too expensive for Canadians who are already struggling with affordability.
Mark Carney added his government is focused on lowering emissions over time, but did not provide a target for that goal. He also says Canada is producing far more oil than the country ever has. The PM connected his energy plan to concerns over Alberta separation.
You are watching CTV News at noon as we embark on a heat wave. We'll have the details when we return. Stay with us. To the East Coast we go. A mother and daughter from Newfoundland and Labrador are pushing the pace and each other.
As CTV's Garrett Berry reports, the duo are working to run into the record books.
10 has become a lucky number for Newfoundland runner Kate Baisley. This weekend, her 10th victory at the 10-mile Telly 10 race, and 6 in a row now, a dominant stretch at this province's premier running event.
I think it was like the largest crowd I've ever seen here. It was amazing, the amount of people. Beautiful sunny day, and it's just so much energy, so much positivity.
And winning seems to be running in the family.
I always train hard and try not to train too much. Yeah, and I work really hard in the races.
Earlier this month, daughter Amelia Baisley ran her way into the record books, running a mile in an organized track and field event faster than any other Newfoundland and Labrador woman ever has in any division. 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
I was really happy, and I was proud of the time because it was exactly what I wanted to run.
That at just 13 years old.
I actually said a couple years ago, watching her run, to my husband, I said, I think that's the most talented runner we've had in the province. And she wasn't even running her times yet I could just tell by her personality, by her drive, by her stride.
Kate has her own lofty goal in the crosshairs. 4 more wins on this course would give her the most out of any athlete, either male or female, in Tele 10 history.
She would pass her friend Colin Fewer, who has 13 titles on the men's side.
It's no easy feat, and I am getting a little bit older, so you never know. But yeah, no, he's a good friend. That's an amazing accomplishment he has.
The next generation at the doorstep. For now, Kate is trying to keep Amelia's training reasonable, but the skill set for a new dominant athlete out of this province is becoming obvious. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Well, here in southern Ontario, not only hot, but there's a concern at this hour.
Yes, so we've been talking about the risk of thunderstorms. There's actually a tornado warning that's now been issued just a few moments ago for areas like Kingston, Odessa, Tamworth, South Frontenac, and the Frontenac Islands. This is what it looks like on the satellite and radar. This cluster of storms could be producing a tornado. So if you're joining us from this area or know someone in the area, now is the time for them to seek shelter. We are still under a heat warning, orange level here in the GTA. Our evening hot in the 30s temperature-wise, overnight low 24 degrees. Tomorrow we are forecasting 34 degrees, feeling more like 44. It's going to be a scorcher of a Canada Day. Here's a look at some of the other hot Canada Days we've had in the last 25 years. Record to beat was set in 2002, and that is a look at the 7-day forecast. It continues hot into the weekend. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.